Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Rawls Group's Advancing Your Business, Your People, and Your Legacy podcast. My name is Kendall Rawls. I'm the Director of Development with the Rawls Group, your host. Our succession planners with the Rawls Group, Hugh Roberts and David Weaver, along with Kevin Gilbreath, a tax partner with Crowe, have been discussing various advanced tax planning dynamics in our conversation series, Planning Post-Pandemic and What's in It for Me. With the benefits of the current planning environment combined with the highest estate tax exemption in history, potentially going away with the Biden administration, engaging in planning now is an obvious next step. However, there are many business owners not moving forward. In this episode, the discussion focuses on what seems to be getting in the way and strategies for overcoming those obstacles. Listen in now. Hugh, after listening to this conversation, and if you're tuning into this episode now, please go back to the previous ones for the listeners. But Hugh, it seems implementing tax strategies is a no-brainer. What do you feel gets in the way for people to act?
Usually it's what goes on in our emotions. We as people, it doesn't matter how much money we might have, et cetera, we still can have fears, et cetera. Will there be enough? Will I be okay? What's this going to do to my family? There's just a lot of things that cause us to get concerned, or I don't understand what you're trying to explain to me. This sounds like Greek to me, and I just, one guy said, "What I do is fun, Hugh. What you do is not so much fun. So I'd rather focus on that." It's really easy to kick the can down the road, et cetera. So I think basically it comes down to a couple of basic things. Number one, people worry about losing control. So if they know that they won't have, that they can set things up in a way that I can still maintain control of my assets and still be able to have the flexibility I need to run my business and make the decision I want, that's a key one. So that's being in control. The second one, I think, is a fear that somehow I will mess with my income and my ability to utilize income both for lifestyle and for investment purposes. And again, they're planning, if there's so many ways to protect their income, protect their ability to have the flexibility to invest through all the types of trusts and partnerships and LLCs and so forth that we've been talking about. All of those are very, very much attainable. And then, the whole business of it's too complicated. Well, you're in a complicated business and you've developed a vast net worth, and it is important for your advisors to sit and carefully take you through it. But the ability, once you understand that while these they may seem complex, they're pretty straightforward in terms of what they're able to accomplish. And they can have tremendous impact in terms of achieving your goals of passing your business on to family members or to impacting charity or whatever the things you're trying to do. So I think, number one, am I in control? Number two, do I have enough income? Do I have the flexibility to do the investments, et cetera? And then that whole thing of have we addressed whether it's going to demotivate my kids or not? And again, there are ways to control it so they don't get their hands on it until the proper time, et cetera. So if you could answer this question, if you knew that these questions are being resolved, would you consider? And the answer is yes, I'd consider it. And the sooner you consider it, the better off you're going to be.
Those are kind of the drivers of what gets in the way for most people to act. I'd say the other thing that I see at times is I don't have time for this. It's time consuming. Most of your dealers are very successful for a reason, and they stay busy. There are a lot of people around them who want a piece of their time, and this person over here telling them, "Hey, I want this giant piece of your time to talk about your future death," it's just not all that appealing. But kind of what you want to do is on your own timeline, put together those goals. Make sure that the work is occurring. There's so much that can be done that you don't have to be present for in trying to design the strategy. It's not your job to know all the rules or understand everything. And use your support people to help pull together the data. I think the most successful estate tax plans usually are those where the dealer pulls in their support team and says, "Hey, you put this together for me so that I know my value. This person over here, you help the attorney, you help me with drafting all the documents. My estate tax planner, you kind of work with them independently to craft some goals, and then let's meet, and then let's make that meeting very, very efficient so I can ask the questions I want, understand where my pathways I can go and what the options are, and we can get this done. So yeah, it does take some time, but it's not like buying a new dealership. Let's say that it doesn't take as much time or as many meetings necessarily.
I was just thinking of one part there that you hit on, and that is, I think it's critically important you have a team of advisors working together. Each one of us has a little bit different perspective, and each one of these together, to me, the most effective planning environments is where you have a team of professionals who've been around and done this many, many times, and together they can offer different options. They can help you sort through, et cetera. And the worst thing you can do is to isolate your advisors. Let them interact with each other and get deeply involved together, and you're going to get a much better result.
David, do you have anything to add?
Sure, I agree with both Hugh and Kevin. I think one of the things that gets in the way is, as I think it was Hugh pointed out earlier, is a dealer's feeling that they need to control their circumstances. And this is a topic that is very difficult. It's difficult to talk about, but it's also just very complicated. And so it does require a team of advisors, because we're relying on the expertise of a village, not any single individual or single advisor. And for a dealer to go into an environment where they really know very little about most of the time, it's a difficult environment and one that they can't control. And the other thing, just echoing, I think, what Kevin said, is the one thing that gets in the way is called business. Auto business is the one, more so than anything else, that every month it starts all over again. And so every month I'm starting the business over. It's, what does it take to make the numbers? Everybody's heads down. And when you're that heads down and that focused, which you need to be, it's just difficult to lift your head up and look at the horizon and say, yeah, but I need to do some long-term planning. And whether that's strategic planning, whether it's tax planning, whether it's estate planning, succession planning, it's just difficult to take that time. But that's the kind of time that will pay back dividends that are unmeasurable in most respects, and is probably the most important thing that you could probably be thinking about.
I heard a statistic, and I don't know if it's true or not, but that the average American family spends much more time on planning this year's family vacation than they do on their estate and their tax planning.
Yeah.
And that if you can spend time on that, usually you can make time for something that's going to impact your future generations.
Well, the other thing an advisor can do is to kind of be the conscience. That's why we have mentors when we're younger and we're learning, is to have people to push, have people to pull. And that's part of our role as advisors sometimes, is to keep people, not so much to a specific timeline, but just keep the ball rolling and making sure that they are making the decisions that they have to make and continuing that planning. To do anything of this magnitude completely on your own would be very difficult, even with all the knowledge in the world. It's just is making sure that you're committed to it and see it through to the end.
One dealer, I remember, said to us, David, I'll tell you what you guys are. You're my friendly pain in the butt.
Yeah.
He said, if you weren't friendly, I'd kick you out. And if you weren't pain, I'd never get this stuff done, because quite frankly, I don't like dealing with it. So I need you to push me. He said it even a little more colorfully than that, but anyway.
Wow, it's amazing how fear can stop us in our tracks, right? Kevin Gilbreath with Crowe and the Rawls Group's Hugh Roberts and David Weaver provided excellent insight to move beyond paralysis by analysis and take advantage of opportunities now. Thank you to our expert panel for sharing your insight on what seems to get in the way of dealers taking action when planning seems to be a no-brainer. The next episode of the Planning Post-Pandemic and Political Unrest, What's in It for Me series focuses on what are the first steps for dealers to either get started on planning or to ensure what they have is taking advantage of every opportunity at their fingertips. Do you have a question you want to discuss with an expert? Feel free to reach out directly to Kevin, Hugh, or David at the email addresses featured on the screen. Continue listening to the series now or come back later for more. Each topic featured may want you to learn something new.